Alright, what's up guys? I've got a hopefully not too long crafting video here. It's kind of just going to be going over the methods and kind of details and alternatives to crafting a lot of the gear that I've been using on my Vortex Occultist, since I've been getting a lot of questions about what fossils to use, how I crafted this item, whether I bought it, if I crafted it, what I did and didn't do. I just kind of wanted to get through a lot of it as much as possible. And to start this off, I'm going to quickly go over the things that I haven't crafted, or things that you may not necessarily want to craft versus just looking for something on the market. And the first up obvious one is the amulet that I'm using. It's a unique, but even before I had the unique, I just had like a rare amulet that I bought on PoE trade with some energy shield rolls and like some resistances. Amulets, I don't think for ES builds for the most part you really want to be going after crafting unless some other build needs a very specific fossil mod or specific shaper or elder mod. Then you can kind of craft after them, but for this one, wasn't really a thing. And also the rings, I did craft this one. I'll get into that in a minute though. My other one I bought, or may have even dropped. Either way, I was very lucky to grab it when I did because it had a lot of rolls I specifically needed. And then the other ring I did craft using alt regaling, and I eventually exalted and hit a life roll, which is like crazy but didn't do anything for me. But I crafted it because of a additional method that no longer works, where you could get two veiled mods on a rare and then recraft them to whatever you want. So that was the goal when I was making it. You can't do it anymore, but you can see this has two different crafted things on it. So even the other ring you would probably just end up trying to buy. But everything else, every other item that I'm wearing other than like the jewel in my belt has all actually been crafted. And so let's just get through them all. What I did for each thing, other alternatives, all that. And I'm going to start with the weapon, which is I think my first multi-modded craft I did this league. And I kind of took a strategy that I used last league for a Blade Vortex Occultist, which was to get the minion damage and damage on full life mods, which the damage on full life is always active because a CI build, you have 1 HP, you're always at that full HP. And then the minion damage works because of the spiritual aid node, and just kind of turns into an alternative to something like spell damage, and it was easier to hit last league than getting like a spell damage weapon of any sort. But the big thing here was that damage on full life roll being a suffix. It's kind of hard to replicate on any other real mods for a build like this where, you can't take advantage of things like crit. So really that's the only super required mod, because I believe you can craft almost as much spell damage or maybe even more spell damage. Yeah, it costs 1 exalt for that one, but even for 4 chaos, you can pretty much hit the same amount of spell damage as the minion damage, and they block each other out. It's one or the other. But the damage on full life you definitely want if you can afford to craft, which came from this set of fossils right here. The pristine fossil gives the damage on full life. The bound fossil gives the minion damage. And then I also threw in a corroded fossil, which in addition to using fossils to hit specific mods you want, you can use fossils to block mods you don't want. So I don't care about the poison or the bleeding modifiers, whatever they were on this thing. What I did care about was the no elemental, which blocks out all the flat elemental to spells, all the flat elemental to attacks, anything like percent fire damage, percent lightning damage, fire resist. It just removes a bunch of mods from the potential pool and makes it more likely to hit the ones you're going after. And so I was doing that until I hit both of the minion and the full life damages, which I think took maybe 4 or 5 tries each time, and then went to annul it down to just the 2 mods, and then did the multi-mod. But that one's expensive. There are a lot cheaper alternatives, because really all you care about on this weapon is as much damage as you can afford to get, and then an open suffix to do the trigger a socketed spell craft that you can see at the bottom. It's really nice for utility things. I grabbed this wand to kind of show one of the alternatives. This one does not have an open suffix, but it does have the temple minion damage modifier, which comes from either the Omnitect boss in the temple or the fully upgraded minion room. You can get weapons with it. And that's a 90 to 95% damage roll, which they're not super cheap to get either. Ideally, you'd get a scepter. A wand is okay if you just don't want to have fortify, but and then just like get one suffix open, or you could even You can get them as a magic item. You can multi-mod them as well. But the point being, just get as much percent damage as you can. And do the suffix thing. This one does have something that you want to avoid for this build in particular, though, with that cold damage to spells. Since that can screw with the elemental equilibrium. But basically weapon, craft, or buy. Both work. Just a lot of damage. And then get that bench crafted mod. Next would be 3-in-1. The gloves, the Valregalia chest, and the titanium shield. All of these are just straight up dense fossil by itself. You don't need anything to go with it. It gives you a bunch of the ES rolls, blocks some other prefixes, and at least for the gloves and the body armor, it's not that hard to hit a decent item. Like, these are probably two of the ones where it's actually cheaper most of the time to craft it yourself than to buy it, and you can actually craft them somewhat for profit if you know what to look for. Shield's a little bit tougher, but still works quite well. And you can also, you don't have to anymore because you can get quality on all these bases. You can see pretty much everything I'm wearing has more than 20 quality because that just gives more energy shield. But you could do a perfect fossil, which gives anywhere from 15 to 30 quality to the item. Which I'll throw one on here on this pair. We'll see what it hits. 17, so that's not a good one. You would re-roll it. Or you can just get the Syndicate. Actually have them here. Hillock in Fortification can give up to 28 quality, so that works as well. And yeah, those slots, you're just mostly looking for energy shield. Ideally, you know, try to get like one good suffix like a resist. This one has kind of weak suffix, but it had really good energy shield, so I kept it. And that gets you basic ES gear. You can also use this same combo on both the helmet and the belt, but they're a little bit different for at least when you push into the more min-maxing side of things. Where you can see my belt has cold damage, which was I added in a frigid fossil to the dense fossil. So I still want these ES modifiers, but I threw in the frigid, which lets you get that cold damage, a little bit more DPS. And then for the belt in particular, I also used a beastcraft to add aspect of the spider, which just adds a little bit of extra damage to the build once I was able to grab a shaper amulet and squeeze that in. But you can see here, it's in the beastcraft thing, craft an aspect skill onto an item. Unfortunately, you can't trade these right now, so if you are trying to get one, it's kind of tough if you don't find the boss yourself. Because they are from killing the bestiary bosses. I don't have one for the spider to show the portal to the boss. All the other ones I've gotten, I've helped other people kill and then got the recipe as a result. But you can see Cracian's Cove, which is the crab boss. You kill the boss with the beast that you randomly find in a map. And then when you kill the boss, it captures that boss. You can craft their aspect one time. Those are really expensive, though. Those are hard to get, but if you can get it, it's great. And then the helmet was the same thing, another frigid fossil thrown in. This time because it lets helmets roll a nearby enemies have minus cold res aura, which is another DPS boost, and then you just let the dense kind of carry the energy shield for you. And then for the last of the ES bases, we've got the boots, which realistically, if you're like not too familiar with crafting, or you're on any sort of budget, or you're just not pushing super endgame gear in your ES build, you just get Syntrex. They're still really good even after the nerf. They're way cheaper than trying to craft any sort of pair of boots. Like, crafting boots barely is ever going to net you profit. It's usually you're sinking currency for an endgame item that doesn't exist, or, you know, or too expensive that you just want to kind of gamble it. But these are ones where you generally are going to lose money on the craft. And you can see I used a dense fossil. You can use dense by itself for those as well. But with how cheap shuddering fossils are this league, they give more speed modifiers, makes it much more likely to hit movement speed. I got really lucky with mine. I hit an actual 35 move speed roll, which I guess I should touch on that. The item level of some of these is pretty important. These boots are eye level 86, which lets you hit 35 movement speed instead of 30. Just really quickly for item level on all these. Shield, you also want 86 for a tier 1% energy shield roll. Same with the body armor, tier 1% energy shield roll. Helmet, 84 is fine. 85 lets you get tier 1 intelligence, which can be good. They're not really much more expensive, so either or. I don't really care for either way generally, but If you want the best potential resale value, you should probably get an 85 in case you hit a big int roll that you can sell. And then gloves 84, belt 84. The rings don't really matter too much because you're probably buying them. And the weapon, if you are fossil crafting it, you need eye level 75 because the actual minion damage is one of the few fossil mods that has tiers. You can see mine's tier 3. Goes all the way up to tier 1, obviously. Which requires an item level 75 to hit it. And that gets up to like 80% minion damage. But anyway, back to the boots. Yeah, shuddering. I hit move speed. I also hit the shuddering mod, which is that suffix 4 to 6 move speed if you've hit an enemy recently. And yeah, so that's another. That one's the currency sync. And I think that covers pretty much all of the bases, everything there. Real quick, I'm just going to throw a couple fossils at some of these just to show kind of what happens. Fossils aren't really cheap, but you can't get good outcomes, but you need to be prepared to kind of have some currency to spend in case you hit bad luck. This is the dense fossil into the gloves. Let's see what we hit. Actually hit a really nice pair of gloves. I don't know exactly what they've got on them. Let's see. It's got the energy shield suffix, which is from the fossil. High flat roll, which is really important on a lot of these ES bases. And then a very mediocre regular ES percent roll. But that's a very respectable pair of gloves considering it's only 17 quality. We can hold on to those and sell them for sure. And then let's just throw another one at a belt. This is the dense plus frigid to try to get some cold damage. The cold damage is pretty rare, and the dense ones on the belt are kind of tough because it also makes you more likely to hit armor rolls specifically, which belts actually have armor rolls. You can see I hit 2 different armor rolls. The belts are kind of tough. The boots are also kind of tough. We'll throw one on, see what happens. Grab a chaotic one. And also, for anybody who didn't play, these are magic boots, actually, we need this one. Who didn't play Delve, the resonators don't matter. I get asked a lot about that. All the resonator means is how many fossils you're putting in, and then if you use an alchemical one, the item has to be normal before you use it. If you get a chaotic one, you can just keep rerolling rares. That's the only difference between the alchemical and the chaotic. So we hit here. It was almost pretty solid. Maybe that's a suffix. No. If that was a suffix energy shield roll, that percent yes, it could have been pretty good. It's got a lot of movement speed, but unfortunately with 40% increased energy shield, that's just a little bit too low. Could actually use this as an experiment. Unfortunately, I don't have the beast, but this could be one that you maybe throw into a beast craft to do the remove prefix add suffix. It's kind of like an annul and an exalted at the same time, but better because you can target it. Would give a 1 in 3 chance to get rid of that weak percent roll. It would add a suffix for free, and then could craft a better percent roll and get this up to maybe 150 ES. And then they would be sellable because they do have a lot of movement speed, but they kind of bricked there. And then yeah, last thing is a weapon. I mean, I'm not gonna throw an annul at the weapon. I just grabbed one to show because you would want to annul a suffix off it. And yeah, I think that covers about everything. First one of these crafting videos, kind of just winged it on this one, but hopefully I covered all the bases. If you have any questions or things you might want to see in future crafting videos, because I might do one of these for like each build that I make where I do a lot of heavy crafting. So the Winter Orb character I'm working on currently has a decent amount of crafting gear. I'll probably throw something together that goes over that as well. But if there's any specific crafting type details that you think I might have missed or something you didn't understand, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to jot them all down and maybe get to them in a future video. Other than that, thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later.